Good evening, lovelies. Welcome back to the Be Yourself Unapologetically podcast. So, this one is for the parents sitting on the bedroom floor whispering, "How did we get here?" For the mums and dads whose bright academic child, the one teacher said would smash their GCSEs, is now so anxious and depressed that even getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. For the parents who lie awake at 3 in the morning, terrified because their child has said they don't want to be here anymore and exams are 6 months away. And this is not how you imagined any of it would turn out. If that's you, I want you to know from the very start, you are not alone, you are not a bad parent, and this episode isn't here to tell you to try harder, push more, or fix everything. It's here to sit with you in the mess, to name the feelings that nobody talks about, and to offer some gentle light in what may feel like a very dark tunnel. Let's start with the picture you once had in your head. Maybe you remember parents' evenings when your child was in primary school, teachers saying they're so clever, such a joy to teach. You'd walk home smiling, maybe planning the future in your head, GCSEs, college, maybe university, maybe an apprenticeship, maybe something completely different, but always with that quiet pride that your child was doing well. Maybe you saw your child with their nose in a book, rattling off random facts or flying through homework, and you thought they're going to be okay. Because that's what we're told, isn't it? If they're clever and they work hard, they'll be fine. But the bit nobody talks about is what happens when you have a clever child who is also neurodivergent, a child who is masking, a child who is holding it together so tightly at school that by the time they get home there's nothing left. On paper they look fine. In real life at home they are falling apart. Maybe you started seeing signs a few years ago. The Sunday night dread, the tummy aches before school, the tears over something tiny that didn't match what actually came home in the school report, the meltdowns that only you saw, the shutdowns, your child retreating into their room, headphones on, lights off, disappearing. You might have gone to the school and said something's not right, they're really anxious, they're struggling, and maybe you got told time and time again, well, they're doing fine academically, they're so polite in class, we don't see any problems with the other children here. Maybe someone said they just need to build resilience, or it's normal teenage hormones. And because you don't want to be that parent, because you're worried about being judged because they made you feel dramatic or overprotective, you went home and thought, maybe it is just me. Maybe we just need to push through. Exams are important. Everyone struggles a bit. Fast forward to now. They're in year 11. GCSEs are about 6 months away, and your child, your academic, capable, lovely child, is burnt out, anxious, depressed, barely leaving the house, don't want to go to school anymore. Maybe they've said the words that no parent ever wants to hear. I don't see the point. I wish I wasn't here. I hate myself. I can't do it anymore. The first time you hear that, something inside you breaks. You look at this person that you love more than anything on earth and you think, you're talking about leaving and I'm supposed to be worrying about exam timetables and revision timetables. How is this my life? You might feel anger, not at them, at the system, at the school, at CAMS, at the endless waiting list, at every appointment where you were told there wasn't enough evidence, or they weren't bad enough, or that because they were coping at school, it couldn't be that serious. You might feel guilt the kind that eats away at you quietly. Why didn't I push harder earlier? Why didn't I see it sooner? Why did I listen when they told me they were fine? Why did I care so much about attendance and grades when they were telling me they were breaking? You may be grieving the version of the future you thought they'd have, grieving the carefree teenager you imagined, grieving that beautiful idea of them walking into that exam hall ready, confident, with their highlighters and notes, and you taking the picture and crying proud tears. Grief doesn't only happen when someone dies. It happens when the future you expected disappears. And that can come in many times with neurodivergent children. And then there's the extra layer, the special needs and masking. Maybe you do have a diagnosis now, autism, ADHD, maybe both. Maybe it's still suspected and you're still stuck in limbo. Maybe the reports say high functioning or academically able, and yet you're looking at a child who can't get into the building, who can't open their exam paper without shaking, whose brain is so full of fear that they can't remember what they had for breakfast, never mind Shakespeare quotes or maths formulas. Masking is a cruel thing. Your child spent years camouflaging their struggles to fit in, copying other children, mimicking behaviour, working twice as hard to appear fine. And because they were so good at masking, the system missed them. They fell through the gaps. Now you're 6 months from GCSEs and it feels like everything is crashing down at once. And here's the brutal truth. You're probably wrestling with, it's too late, practically, to get the ideal specialist provision you wish you'd had years ago. Those smaller class sizes, sensory-friendly classrooms, trauma-informed staff, the placement you begged for or didn't know you were allowed to ask for. That ship for this exam cycle may well have sailed. And that hurts. It hurts in a way that's hard to explain to people who haven't been there. So let's just sit with that for a minute. You are allowed to be angry that the system didn't show up sooner. You are allowed to be heartbroken that your child is suffering now. You are allowed to feel jealous even of the parents posting revision timetables and proud of my hard-working team photos on social media. You're allowed to cry in the car, in the shower, on the kitchen floor. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. But here's something I want you to really hear. It might be too late for the perfect, neat storybook version of specialist support before GCSEs, but it's not too late to support your child now. It's not too late to choose their life, their mental health, their safety over an exam grade. Let's talk about the pressure of these exams for a moment. And I know we've gone over this in another podcast, but it is so important and I really want you to hear this. We talk about GCSEs like they are this giant gateway to life, pass or fail, succeed or be stuck forever. But if you talk to adults, if you talk to colleges, if you talk to people who hire apprentices, what you'll find is that you can sit exams later, you can resit, you can take different qualifications, you can do functional skills, you can change course, and you can start again. There are so many paths that we don't tell our kids about because the system loves a straight line. School, exams, college, university, job. For a child who is struggling with anxiety, depression and suicidal thoughts, that straight line might not be realistic. And that is not a failure. It just means their path is going to be different. And different is okay. You might be sitting there thinking, but the school is on at me about attendance. They're talking about consequences. They want predicted grades. They want evidence. They want results. And alongside that noise, you're living with the reality that your child is saying, I don't want to be alive. Let's be really clear. No exam is worth your child's life. No attendance figure is worth your child's safety. No grade is worth your child believing that they are a failure or a burden. As a parent, you're stuck in the middle of a tug of war. On one side, the system's shouting, we need data, grades, attendance. On the other side, your heart whispering, I just need my child to still be here in a year's time. If you're choosing your child over the system, you're choosing right. Now, I want to talk about the suicidal feelings you may be seeing in your child. We're not going into detail, but we are going to name what's happening, because silence is where shame grows. When a child has spent years masking, pushing down their needs, trying to keep up, trying to fit a world that wasn't designed for their brain, when they've been told to just try harder, or everyone feels like that sometimes, or you're too clever to be struggling, it sends a powerful message. Your pain doesn't matter as much as your performance. Over time, that message eats away at them. It tells them that their worth is tied to grades. So when anxiety and depression knock those grades down, they don't just see lower marks, they see proof that they are failing as a person. And that's when dangerous thoughts can creep in. Thoughts like, everyone would be better off without me. Thoughts like, if I can't cope with school at 15 or 16, what kind of adult will I be? When you hear those words, it's easy to panic. Of course it is. It's easy to want to shut down the conversation. Don't say that, don't be silly, you'll be fine. But underneath those words is usually a massive load of pain, exhaustion, and feeling trapped. Your child doesn't need you to have the perfect answers. They need you to believe them, to take them seriously, to say, I'm so glad you told me, I'm here. We're going to get through this together. And you, the parent, you need support too. If your child is expressing suicidal thoughts, talk to professionals, your GP, mental health services, NHS 111, crisis teams if they're available in your area. If you're in immediate danger or you're seriously worried for their safety, emergency services are there for that too. And if you're scared, exhausted, and you just need a voice at the end of the phone, there are helplines like Samaritans where you can offload at any hour. You are not meant to carry this alone. Let's come back to the too late feeling. Too late for specialist provision. Too late for an EHCP in time. Too late to change school. Too late to fix the damage. That too late voice is heavy. It can tip into hopelessness really quickly. But here's the thing. It is never too late to change the story from my child must achieve to my child must survive, heal and find themselves. Yes, GCSEs are coming. Yes, there may be things you still have to talk to school about. Access arrangements, reduced timetables, remote learning, alternative provision, maybe sitting fewer subjects instead of all of them. But you're allowed to draw a line and say, my child's mental health comes first. We will do what is realistically possible within that, and the rest can wait. It's okay if they don't sit every exam. It's okay if they don't get the grades you'd once imagined. It's okay if this year looks nothing like what's on the school posters, because your child is more than a set of numbers on a results sheet. Let's talk about you again, because you matter in this story. There's the version of you that thought you had it all mapped out. And then there's the version of you now, sitting in waiting rooms, sending long emails, crying over letters, refreshing your inbox for appointments, learning language like masking, sensory overload, school refusal, reasonable adjustments. You might feel like you failed. You haven't. You have been parenting in a system that is not built for kids who don't fit the mould. You have been trying to translate your child's pain into words that professionals take seriously. You have been holding the line for them when they couldn't hold it for themselves. This is not failure. This is love. And yes, if you're like most parents in this position, you can list 100 things you'd do differently if you could go back. You'd trust your gut sooner. You'd push harder for assessment. You'd worry less about being that parent. You'd focus on their smile, not their grades. You'd believe them the first time they said, "I can't do this." But you didn't have the information you have now. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Can you offer yourself a little of the compassion you'd offer another parent in your situation? Because if a close friend told you this story, you wouldn't say you've ruined everything. You'd say you've carried so much, you're doing amazingly. You and your child both deserve more support. You deserve that kindness too. So what now? Right now might look very small. It might look like helping your child get through today, not this entire exam season. Breaking things down into get up, drink some water, eat something, take medication if they have it. One small task, then rest. Emailing school to say this is where we're at, these are the limits, this is what we can and can't do. Asking the GP about follow-up, about medication reviews, about therapy options, keeping conversations open at home, not just about school, but about who they are as a human being beyond exams. You might need to say to your child, you are more than your grades, you are more than this moment. If you have to press pause on the perfect plan, we will. We can look at other routes right now. I care that you're safe and you know you're loved. You might need to say to yourself, I'm allowed to grieve what I thought this year would be. I'm allowed to feel angry at the system. I'm allowed to prioritise my child's life over their exam timetable. I'm not failing by doing that. I'm choosing what matters. One day, this season will be something you and your child look back on. It might not be in a neat and then everything was perfect way. Healing is scruffy. Progress is zigzag. But there can still be a future, even if this school experience has been traumatic. There are young people who left school with no GCSEs and went back later, sat exams in college instead, found apprenticeships that valued their skills more than their grades, discovered passions and careers that had nothing to do with the subjects they were pushed to pass at 16. Your child's journey might not look like anyone else's. That doesn't make it lesser, it just makes it theirs. As we come towards the end of this episode, I want to speak directly to your heart, to the part of you that is terrified, exhausted, and maybe feels very, very alone. You are not alone. There are other parents out here quietly living similar stories, scrolling through their phones at midnight, hoping someone understands. You are not a bad parent because your child is struggling. You are not a bad parent if school didn't work out. You are not a bad parent if GCSEs don't go to plan. You are a parent in an impossible situation, doing everything you can to keep your child safe, loved and alive in a system that often doesn't see the whole picture. Your child does not need you to be perfect. They need you to be present, to keep showing up, to keep saying, I'm here no matter what happens with these exams, I'm here. If you're listening to this and thinking, this is all too much, I don't know where to start, start with one tiny thing. Text a friend and say, I'm struggling. Book that GP appointment. Write a short email to school explaining how bad things really are. Make yourself a cup of tea and sit down for 5 minutes without doing anything else. Look at your child and remind them out loud that you love them just as they are. And if you or your child are in that very dark place where life feels unbearable, please reach out for urgent help. GP, NHS 111, crisis services if they're available where you are, or emergency services if you're scared for someone's immediate safety. You are not wasting anyone's time by saying, "We're not okay." GCSEs are a handful of days in a long, long life. Right now, your job is not to guarantee straight nines. Your job is to help your child stay here long enough to find out who they are beyond all of this. They deserve that chance, and so do you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Yourself Unapologetically. If this resonated with you, please know you can replay it anytime you need to hear another parent voice saying, "I get it. You are doing better than you think. Your child is more than they know. And this story isn't finished yet."